morning, good evening. Welcome to my episode number one, Steps and Stories on my channel Tech Track with EJ. Today we have special guest are from ServiceNow retired ServiceNow developer advocate Chuck Tomasi.
This is episode 1?
Yes, this is episode one.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So I thought to start something on that podcast side. It's my pleasure to invite you on episode one directly, and it's my pleasure you have accepted my invite. Thanks a lot
I'm
for that.
honored. Thank you.
So welcome to my channel, Chuck. How are you doing today?
I'm off to a good start. How about you?
I'm also doing good, thank you. And I'm also now doing good more. You are here with me as well. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, before starting the session, as a traditional, what I follow and what I thought, everything is happening through the God only, right? So let's take a 10 to 15 minutes pause to pray to God. So our discussions, our, agenda will be showcased in the same manner to that, my friends, colleagues, whoever joined that particular session. So we will give some impact in their life as well, right? So let's take it 10 to 15 minutes pause for that. Thank you.
No,
I think
thank you.
let's get started. So Chuck, I think no need to be required your introduction here, but I just prepared little introduction for you. So let me introduce you here in my channel. So hi everyone, as you know already, Chuck is ServiceNow expert, advocate, and passionate member of ServiceNow community. And with over of 35-year experience in different type of organizations and technologies, he is going to be share his uh, knowledge, instrumentation knowledge to drive in innovations, sharing knowledge and mentoring thousands of folks basically. In ServiceNow, if I say if ServiceNow had a superhero squad, Chuck would definitely the guy who have the cap, probably flying around the solving problems before you even they occurs or they existed basically. Right. So I feel Chuck had that particular capability. Also apart from that it's honor to I have Chuck is participating in my channel. So let's start that particular podcast. Thank you, Chuck.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you. So I just want to understand, you have 35-year experience and you have started, I see your profile, and you started with instructors, and after that you moved out to system admin profile, and after that you moved out to an IT sector, and how you landed in service now.
I landed in ServiceNow because I was a customer first. We had at my old company, well, now my old company. I should say my first one, the first one out of college. Like you said, I was a system administrator. I was a software developer. I had a large number of roles in there, and eventually landed as the manager for IT or engineering IT. So took care of a lot of the ECAD and MCAD and just different applications, along with several others that were on that team. A wonderful team. They had um, they had an opportunity over the course of the company. It grew sometimes through mergers and acquisitions, sometimes organically. And through these mergers and acquisitions and just the natural life cycle of the organization, over about 7 or 8 years, they had multiple ticketing systems and none of them talked to each other. If you called the corporate help desk, you'd get one. If you worked in engineering like I did, you'd get something that I had built. I had written a ticketing system. If you were over in the UK, you had another one. And it was just terrible. The user experience was
Correct.
awful. You can imagine getting an email because somebody manually transferred a ticket from, say, the UK to corporate. Oh, this is a corporate issue. It was the ultimate in bad experience, especially when it came to reassignments and nobody knew, is this still open in your queue? I handed it off to you 6 months ago. It just terrible. And so they had one of the corporate IT had outsourced their ticketing system, and it was part of a shared infrastructure, kind of kind of an MSP, what we would call domain separation in ServiceNow world, right?
Right.
And just to get even a field added or an option added to a drop down was painstaking because it impacted all the other customers. So this was supposed to be a 5-year contract. They said, we're cutting it at 4. This is not working.
Mm,
We need something that's universal across the globe, across all departments and business units and whatever they called them at the time. And we need somebody to head that up. So I said, I looked at my career and I said, I'm only going so high in the engineering side because I don't have an electrical engineering degree or I don't have a master's in business. So I made a lateral transfer over to corporate IT and took on the project of unifying and repatriating the help desk, setting up 2 call centers, one in the US and one in Malaysia, because we had a big manufacturing presence there. We had, everything from the Cisco call center to furniture to hiring. I had about 8 months to do this, and part of that, of
oh,
course, was selecting the software that was going to run our IT infrastructure, the assets and the tickets. We originally started with a small implementation of ITSM. Back then, ServiceNow was a much simpler tool.
exactly.
It was ITSM, what they called runbook or automation, which became orchestration, which was then later taken over by, you know, Flow Designer and Integration Hub, that kind of thing. And and then there was discovery. So they really had 3 products. It was
Right.
it was like ITSM, runbook, and discovery.
Discovery.
We were starting a partial ITSM infrastructure. We knew we needed a ticketing system, so we set up incident, knowledge, and service catalog because we had requests. And that pretty much put the other ticketing systems out of business, so to speak. Uh, Got that stood up in about 42 days. I went to sysadmin training at the end of October 2008. We had our go live on January 12th, 2009. And then for the next year, it was sort of refine, strategize. How are we going to grow this? I said, I'd really like to get problem online. I'd like to get change online. We had still one more, what we called the IT request tracker, kind of a quasi project management system, but it was more of a change management system because they had a cab meeting once a week, blah, blah, blah. I said, that needs to be in ServiceNow. We need to get this all in one place. So I went
Right.
to Knowledge 10 and was talking to partners, going to various speaking sessions, and just absorbing information along with 2 of my team members, one who had just started a few weeks before, and one who was primarily in charge of building the workflows and whatnot. So it was a great opportunity, and as a result of that, I managed to meet a number of people. But a week or so later, my company that I was at for 22 years said, "Thank you for your 22 years of service. Here's the door."
Oh
I went, "Well,
my God.
thank you. It's been a wonderful experience. No bitter feelings. Why they let me go, I'll never know, and frankly, I don't care." Left with a positive attitude, or, could have been financial, could have been personal, could have been who knows?
Right. Agreed.
Don't look back, look forward. So, I immediately got on the phone because I had a couple of events scheduled for the following few days. I mean, one was literally the next day, and I called this woman that I'd met at Knowledge 10, and I said, "I know you'd like to see a demo of the app that I won." Oh, I won the App of the Year award, which is, well, dressed up like a Christmas present behind me at the moment, but, signed by Fred Luddy. So that was kind of my big takeaway from Knowledge 10. And, while we were at the closing ceremony where they announced what's now known as the Devies, it
Right.
was it was the App of the Year award.
Right.
So, I got that, and, I called, and she wanted to see a demo of this app that won an award. So I said, "I can't show it to you. I'm no longer with that company." And within about an hour of me walking out the door from work to the time she said these words was about an hour. She said, "What kind of work are you looking for?" She's also obviously a ServiceNow customer. She was at the conference, and she was interested in hiring me, or me at least talking to me about, an opportunity, and I said, "That's amazing." So if you go to these events, make sure you stick out your hand, you say hello, you get to meet people, and you follow up with them. That's a career tip for you for free on this one. I said,
Thank
"I'm
you.
writing this down, Gail. Thank you for the offer. I'll be in touch. I have another call to make." So I made a call, which was going to be the day after. So 2 days from the time I was let go, for the partner that was going to start working with us on problem and change. And I said, "I can't meet with you, Wade. I've been let go." He said, "Here's what you're going to do. You're going to call these 4 people at ServiceNow, and you're going to let them know you're available. You belong at that company." Now, this wasn't, just 2 job offers. I was also looking at local banks and, manufacturing facilities and anybody who could possibly get me an IT job. But within about 3 weeks, I had a job offer from ServiceNow and decided to take that. Started as a technical consultant, then moved into solution consulting for a while and internal training that we called enablement. It wasn't part
Right.
of the formal training department that you get through Now Learning and whatnot that many people are familiar with, but it was a way to train our incoming people. We have new technical consultants. Chuck, go teach them how to be technical consultants, everything from timesheets to doing decent PowerPoints, all that good stuff. So it was very rewarding. And as the company grew, when I started, it was about 175 employees. Now I think it's upward of 25,000. I'm not there, so I don't hear the number at the quarterly meeting anymore, but it's big. It's
Definitely.
grown to be a big company. Fred Luddy was the CEO. Fred Luddy was still writing software when I started. So we can see we've matured and grown. And if you haven't picked up on it already, even though I've been retired for about 97, 98 days, you will still hear me refer to it as we and us and our, so I don't think I'll ever let go until somebody legally says I have to.
Definitely. Right. So, Chip, if I ask you, like, you mentioned you've transitioned from the different organization to service now. What challenges you are face that particular time? How you are able to, move or accommodate on that particular service now side? What challenges you face? What thing you have learned from that particular in couple of first years, basically?
Yeah, the challenges were really going from, um, sort of running the show. I could make the calls and say, "This is the way we're going to do it," and I would meet with a small group of people who would agree upon it, and we would make the changes. And I knew that impacted mainly the audience that I was working with, which was primarily the help desk, unless it was a public facing thing like a catalog item or something. Then we just the challenges were purely internal corporate ones. Who's allowed to communicate and how often should you send emails? And all that typical stuff that many of us have dealt with. Then moving into ServiceNow, where I was a technical consultant, my expertise was, pretty good on the platform side, but I knew incident problem and or incident catalog and knowledge. So what did they hire me for at ServiceNow? Discovery.
Oh my God.
It was a bit of a change, and, yes, there were challenges, but I could also take some of my previous experience because having been a full stack developer, having been just that nerd who hooked things up in his home to make networks, I knew what DNS was and DHCP and what port
Hmm.
MySQL communicates on by default and where the INI files are hidden. That was very valuable in learning discovery quickly, and later service mapping. So it was taking legacy knowledge that I'd accumulated from various roles and rolling them into that. I remember one of my interview questions when I was talking to Tom Dilatush, may he rest in peace. He said, uh, "Tell me the difference between TCP and UDP in a way that a 5-year-old would understand." I went, "Oh, okay. I like this guy." 1 minute we're talking about ports and protocols, and the next we're talking about, old electronic bulletin boards. It was a very interesting job interview. But, the way I addressed those challenges was the same as any time I'm in a new role. And I've had a number of roles, obviously, over the span of those 35, 40 years, whatever it is. And Uh, I first find someone who is very knowledgeable, whether it's internal or external. Find a mentor, find a coach, find someone who
Definitely.
can guide you through those rough spots. Uh, the second is admit when you don't know something and be sure to follow up. There were
Definitely.
plenty of times with the customers. I was on a call with somebody in the UK, and I said, "You know what? That's a great challenge. I don't know the answer at the moment, but I certainly know who I can ask, and I'll get back to you if not in the next 8 hours, in the next 24 hours." So make a commitment and follow through with that so you can build your integrity, build your trust. Even if you don't know the answer, that's not a sign that it's not a weakness, it's admitting because you certainly don't want to give them false information or incorrect information and then have to backtrack and they say, "Well, I thought yesterday you said A and now you're saying B." That takes out of the trust bank. You want to put things into the trust bank.
Right. So I'm also believe the same thing basically, right? So I've also started with discovery only in ServiceNow itself. So earlier when I started my career, I'm also as a desktop engineer. After that, I moved out in NOC engineer. I worked as a NOC engineer or NOC lead. The same time, while working with that, I got an opportunity to move out in service now. I also not aware about, what is discovery, how it is working, but I take that particular challenge and started my career to be move it, right? So I learned from you, okay, you just also take a challenge as a discovery resource. I started that one, right? And after that learning and slowly and gradually, I started in complete ITOM module. And I would never think about apart from ITOM, right? So I'm completely working on ITOM side where discovery, service mapping, event, orchestrations comes in the picture, basically, right? So I
Really is a
learned from you.
when you first get into it. It's like, first does the Shazam probe and discovers the ports. It's like, "Oh my, this is"
Uh,
it was really a smart architecture. I credit people like Tom Dilitush for coming up with that, you know,
let,
very
let me let me share you because the channel name is Steps and Stories. Let me share you one story. So as you mentioned, TCP and UDP differences, right? So I am working on one project and I don't know like UDP port you cannot telnet directly from the command prompt. I'm trying to telnet, but it's not working. And immediately reach out to infra stakeholders and mention, "Okay, I'm trying to telnet, it's not working. Your port is not open." They mention we port open, they showcase evidence and all, but still I'm arguing with them. The port is not open, you should open it immediately, right? Then they mention this is UDP port. I mean, what happened? It's UDP port, it's a port, simple, we can telnet from them, right? But I got to know after that that is the difference between TCP and UDP, and that's not, you cannot telnet basically. And so that's again learning basically, but I feel every time whenever you are doing, you are going to be learn something.
every time. And,
Definitely.
I think we learn more from our mistakes. So don't be afraid to make a
100%.
mistake, own up to it, admit, if it's something
100%.
that could have consequences, you say, "Look, boss, I, accidentally Z booted this instance. Sorry."
Oh my god. Definitely. Right. So, if I ask you, Chuck, what is your memorable project on which you worked on it, or any good memory from ServiceNow,
Oh
if
my
you want
gosh.
to?
Um, wow, so many to choose from, even though it was only, 14 years and change. I think the best memories are the people I met, mainly at Knowledge, but there were also dev meetups and snugs and just getting to spend that time with people. I've made some wonderful relationships that endure today. Some go back as far as, whoops, pardon, I bumped
No
the sound.
issues.
Some of you may know that music from Tech Now. That was not subliminal advertising. But the relationships really mean a lot. And now that I'm retired, that is one of my key focuses is to stay in touch with people I love, whether it's family or former coworkers or people I met at Knowledge. There's a lot of people in my life that I don't mean to be on a more dark note here, but we are only here on this planet for a limited time, and we don't know
Definitely.
how long. So be sure to spend time with the people you love. I really, really enjoyed what I did. I enjoyed the people I worked for, the people I worked with, the people I communicated with, doing videos. It was a blast. but I certainly
Understood.
don't want to be here in 15 years going, well, that was fun, but where'd all my friends and family go?
Right.
My mother will turn 90 in February. My dad will turn 91 in June. They're only here for a limited time. I want to be able to spend time with them. I want to be able to spend time going to my sister's wedding last June, or spending a 2-week cruise with my wife. So it's some of it's about the travel, some of it is just about being with those people.
Definitely.
And some of those people include people from the ServiceNow world.
Right.
I was we were My wife and I were just planning out some of our travels for 2025, and, uh, one of mine, she's not gonna go this year, but one of mine would like to go to Knowledge 25. So, no promises yet, nothing's on the table. There's still a big maybe question mark on there whether I will be there or not. I'll make an announcement when the announcement comes, if it comes. And afterwards, we have an Alaskan cruise in late May that comes back to Vancouver. So I reached out to Glenn Chason and I said, "Glenn, any chance we could get together? It's going to be a Friday night, which isn't a great night for a dev meetup, but maybe we just get together at a pub and
Right.
hold up a sign on the internet that says, if you're in Vancouver and you want to come hang out with Chuck, show up at, XYZ pub." So those are just ideas that we're trying to merge in with some of these travels that we've got. I Trust me, when I made the retirement announcement last summer, a lot of people said, "Oh, if you're ever in Germany, let me know. If you're ever in Scotland, let me know. If you're ever in Dallas, let me know." So I made this big list, and as we plan
Definitely.
our trips, I go, "Are we going any of these places? I should let these people know." So, and a lot of people said, "If you're ever over in India, I doubt
Definitely. I
it
will be
didn't
lucky enough. Definitely, I will be lucky enough if you're coming India and let us know. And also, I'm
Where
lucky enough. I'm going to meet you first time here on the podcast.
I'm sorry, where in India are you?
I'm from Delhi NCR and currently located in Bangalore.
Already. I'm sorry, I missed your last question. What was that?
So what I'm trying to mention, like it's I'm lucky enough you are meeting with me on first time on the podcast. We attended couple of sessions with you, meetups and all, but we never talk like that, right? So this is
Right.
I'm lucky enough on that side basically.
I'm glad we had an
And,
opportunity to do this.
and Dhruv is mentioning, come to India, remember your promise.
I know Drew. Track of where Drew is, though. He's everywhere.
Definitely, he's everywhere. Right. So, Chuck, as you know, as I know, you are mentors for many of the pupils in the community, right? But if I ask you, who has mentored of to you or influenced you throughout your career, and what you have learned from them, basically?
Oh, great question. I don't know if anybody's asked me that, or they haven't asked in a while. My mentors come from a number of places. First would be my dad. My father started a couple of small businesses to help put us through college. I come from a family of 9, and he was hoping that, everybody would get a college education. Not everybody did, but, that's their choice. But part of that was working at these small businesses. And I learned a lot about running a small business from him, customer service, everything from inventory to, uh, emergency management. Yeah, there was there was a lot to be learned from the tender age of 10 years old, even saving
Right.
my money to achieve some goals. The first thing I bought, I earned 25 cents, for just keeping an eye on the store for 2 hours. Didn't have to do anything, just sit there and learn. But I got 25
Nice.
cents, and when I saved up $12, which would have been, what, about 48 nights of working, I bought my very first watch for
Oh,
$12. I really wanted a wristwatch. I was about 10 years old. So, I learned a lot from him. As I got into more of my, college years, I had a number of friends who were very, very good at, software development and programming, and I learned a lot of technical tips and tricks and techniques and approaches and patterns, if you wanna call them that, to the various situations we were in that I still use today. I was just I was just writing something in Notion yesterday, and I went, "Wow, this takes me back a long way."
Yeah.
So it's always there. You can always rely on experience, whether, like I said, whether it was a lesson learned the hard way or you just remember that neat tip that somebody taught you, and that again makes me think of the people uh, were very important in my life. Then when I got into my professional career, uh, when I first came onto the help desk role, I found somebody local at another company who was a help desk manager for like 20 years. And she was very helpful in understanding the role and getting me connected into organizations, professional associations that could help with that. When I got a management role, I reached out to actually one of our podcast listeners said, "You should listen to the Manager Tools podcast. They have great stuff." They just started maybe 4 months before, and I got connected up with one of them as a professional mentor for about 18 months. Woo! That was like drinking from a fire hose, but it certainly was educational, and I continued to listen and learn from them for, what is it now? Almost 2 decades. So, never stop learning. Never stop reaching out for expertise. There is always someone in your realm that can help teach you things. And then when you feel you've got, some experience, even if it's, I was a technical consultant for a year, and I started posting what I learned on the community blogs. And I said, "Here's a neat client script trick I learned," or here's a system property that you might be interested in. As you learn
Definitely.
these things, don't think, "Oh, everybody's going to know that." Listen, I put one on there that was about add the updated field to your list in ServiceNow and then sort by updated so you can find your most recent edited business rules first. Long before there was a studio, there was a time and a need for something like that. But, somebody made a comment like, "Well, that was so simple and obvious. Why did you post that? I thought everyone knew that." Everyone does not know that. There are people that are starting ServiceNow today that may read your tips. So
Right.
share your knowledge as well as being willing to accept knowledge from others. And what do they say? A rising tide lifts all boats.
Definitely, and I strongly believe in that as well. The first mentors your parents will be and your life, right? After
Yeah.
that, slowly and gradually you are going to be grow. Then you have lots of mentors, and you have to be respect them. Everyone is giving you something, and you're learning, and then you are going to be grow and reaching out here where we are sitting today, right? So always thanks to them, right? So if Achak, if I ask you one thing, if I could, if I ask you something to change in service now, what is the one thing you would like to change?
Uh, wow, there's a few. There's a few. Um, uh, I'm going to go to the technical level and agree with something that David Liu, one of the founding forefathers
Uh,
of ServiceNow. So it's Fred Luddy, Don Goodliff, Bo Ruggieri, and David Liu. So those
Right.
see the demo data, they're actual people.
Yeah.
David Liu had said, "I wish I had put microseconds onto the system log time." So you could see when things came in the right order. You ever write a for loop and have a, GS dot debug in there? And there's like, you count from 1 to 10, but they come in as like 3, 7, 2, 4. It's like, what happened? Because the resolution is only down to a second. In in the downloadable, like, um, not Apache logs, but the system logs you can get from the file system, they do have down to the thousandths of a second. So the resolution's a little better there, but no, I that's just not the way to debug is downloading those things. So yeah, I would have gone that way. Uh, I would also are we talking about the product or the company when you say changes at service now? Which do you want to hear about? I should probably stay away from changes in the company. But the release names, I know there are some challenges in coming up with release names for any company. You know,
Right.
version 17, that's boring. You know, but at least it came before version 18. And Xanadu came after Washington. So we've got a decent naming scheme, but it seems to have holes. Like there's there's no place called Xanadu. It's like- and now I understand they're going to change from cities to countries. There's no country that starts with what was it, X. I think we're back to X. I thought there was another letter, but uh, my my idea that I threw in about 2 years ago when I knew we were coming to the end of the alphabet was make up a word. You can associate the branding to that word. If you call the A release like Abu, you can make Abu mean anything you want. You know,
Definitely.
easy to spell, 3 letters. The next release would be, blibber blabber. At this point, like, you know, have fun with it, but I
Definitely.
understand, big company. Just seems like we need to inject a little more creativity into some of these things without going over the edge. But that was that was not accepted by the release team, obviously.
Definitely. Right. Definitely. Right. So you mentioned ServiceNow is releasing every release in 6 months, right?
Mhm.
Now, as a technical consultant or architect, it's very tough to learn everything with that pace and ready for the next upgrade within 6 months, right? What you think on that particular side? What ServiceNow needs to do? I also know earlier ServiceNow is releasing 3 release in a single year. Now that is reduced to two. But what is that, ServiceNow think besides that? What is the strategy behind that to releasing 2 release per year?
Well, if you made it any more frequent, it would be very, very difficult for the development team to maintain any quality control. There is a
Right.
cycle to this. They're actually working on several releases at the same time because you're projecting out. The product teams are figuring out what are we putting into the
This release. Yeah.
Z release, the A release, the B release. They're looking down the roadmap 3 to 5 years because customers are asking for this, or they're watching the industry. Who would have predicted 3 years ago that we'd have to really push for generative AI? That came out and went, changed everything around. So they don't have an enviable job either. Uh, and it takes time to implement that. So while they're planning long term, the developers are starting to implement some of those as well as supporting previous releases. We still have to make patches on Xanadu, still have to make patches on Washington until Yokohama comes out. Then so there's multiple things in the pipeline at any one time. If it was any less frequent, let's say we took the Apple approach, who comes out with an iOS release about once a year,
But right.
major release. Uh, a lot can change. It's a very competitive landscape. We've ServiceNow has competitors that are innovating very rapidly. If
I
we
agree.
had done releases once a year, that's a long time to come out for some generative AI solutions.
Right.
And to get the feedback from customers, hey, what's working? Where do you want to see it going? Where do we need to focus? How do you like this idea? We can work closely with the customers. Again, I'm saying we, like I'm still there, but look, I catch myself more than anyone else catches me. But that's a long time and you could miss opportunities. And then the competition has a jump on you. I don't know how often the competition does their releases, 2, 3 times a year. I don't think it's once a year.
Mm.
Uh, and from the fact that the customers can upgrade on their schedule, it's not a forced thing. You could skip a release and only upgrade once a year. But as a consultant, as an architect, as a customer, you want to be aware of what's in this release. Does it precipitate? Does it necessitate? Is there value in us going to that release? Or are we going to be missing out on some of the features? Because understand that it's it takes some effort to
Definitely.
in subprod, validate, just educating yourself on the release notes. We're using these 12 modules. So, what's new in HRSD? You have to go get a specialist to dig into that. Have to get somebody on ITOM or it's not called ITOM anymore. It's I lost track of the acronyms, but um, somebody who understands that and can relay the value so a decision can be made to move forward or to hold steady for another release. Obviously, there's the tail end of support, N-1, that kind of thing. You don't want to be
Right.
N-3,
Right.
or you can't even call the support center and go, "Hey, I've got a problem." You're on Calgary, for crying out loud.
Right. Definitely.
Calgary? What are you talking about?
But what I feel, Chuck, personally going through with the every release things, checking
Yes.
out the testing, and that is very challenging, right? That I feel personally, because you cannot learn or you cannot adapt every new technology which is coming in the every 6 months release. You need some time to understand, to implement somewhere, to test something, and then you are going to be do that, right? So it's sometimes challenging for us, but ServiceNow strategy is going to be give something new, that is always awesome basically. And I've never seen any other organizations who are giving that type of updates within 6 months with huge things with every module and all. That is
There
amazing
there
basically.
are some other companies that do that quite often. I think there are some that even do 3 times a year 3 times a year. The, you get to the testing, and that's where things like, ATF comes in, or automated test framework. The extra investment you make when you deploy a change, you deploy and update the tests that go with that. So when it comes time to upgrade, you've got some validation to go, "All right, run this test suite again. It passed. I'm 99% confident it will work just fine in prod." So you can decrease the upgrade cycle and deployment cycle. It's not just for upgrades, but when you deploy a change, you can validate it there. But kind of like documentation, a lot of people just go, we got to keep banging out stories and get them into production." That
Definitely.
should be built into the story. When you get to the
Definitely.
part where how do you validate this is actually working? There should be a test on there, which obviously makes the cost of implementation a little longer, but it does pay for itself when you start getting into first, second, third upgrade after that. Especially if it's an app that, or a, a, a product that you haven't changed in several years, that may have implications down the road. Just because it hasn't changed doesn't mean it's always going to pass. We like to think that, underlying
Right.
platform doesn't change, but, I just read last week that one of the system properties is being deprecated. What does that mean for that particular product? What should I change where do I put a note on that to say when I get to the next A release, I think it's Australia,
Mhm.
when I get to Australia release, that I'm sure that I've updated accordingly so that I'm not caught by this deprecated. Or
Right.
what about all those old workflows made with the classic workflow editor? How are those going to be handled? Because that eventually will be sunset.
Agreed. Right. So let me go to some funny questions basically.
Okay.
So I hope you love it, right? So check, if you want to be describe your journey in a movie, what would it be called?
In a movie. Oh, you caught me off guard with that one. Um, it would be kind of a boring movie if you ask me. Uh,
So
it would
just give
be
me some movie name. So
something along the lines, you kind of already hinted at it. It would be something along the lines of, uh, sort of that person who starts out as, the Padawan, if you wanna take Star Wars reference, started as a Padawan and then become a Jedi master and teach other take a Padawan under your wing. So, it would be that journey of going from learning to experiencing to passing on that knowledge.
oh,
I'm starting to feel old like Yoda now.
definitely I need to be see. Okay. And if I ask you, what is the funniest and most unexpected questions you have ever received from a developer or a customer?
Oh, wow. Oh, you should have given these to me ahead of time. Uh, Funniest question or just bizarre?
And
There's so many in the community. Uh, when I was doing the community in 2015, 16, 17, I am sure there was something in there, but I just don't recall anything that made me go, "What?" Uh, um, yeah, I don't recall any offhand. I do.
anything from customer? Any customer expectation or
Um,
unexpected question?
I there's I think most of it was, just not really bizarre or funny. It was just lack of understanding and then helping them to understand what's possible without a lot of customization. The classic story, I've told this dozens of times, so I apologize if people have heard this one before, but when I was a customer, one of our business analysts asked for, um, approvals. Okay. Now, when you and I experience with the platform, when we hear approvals, you think, not a problem. You put an approval in there and it shows up in the related list at the bottom and you're done. She didn't know that capability existed on the platform. So she was thinking about how things worked in the old system. So if somebody asked for access to the AS400, there would be an email to the manager, the mail would come back, they would save the email attachment, attach it to the record, and that was their evidence that the approval was approved. And I said, "No, no, 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 Courtney, all this is built in, and you can see we sent approvals to these 8 people, and this one responded with approved, the others just went to no longer required, and we move on." And she went, "Really? That's built in?" And she was excited. So I like opening people's eyes to that rather than shaming them on,
Definitely,
on what they don't know, because we'll learn together. What is that person expecting? And some of this came down to the community questions like that too. And it's good community etiquette. This is another tip if you're ever on the community and you have a question. A lot of us, especially the technical people, tend to write out a technical expectation. How do I get X? Help me write a script to do X. When you may not even need a script, you might need to use a flow action that's built in. So to help the person you're requesting help from, say, this is the outcome I'm looking for. Hopefully
definitely,
it's more of a business outcome than a technical outcome. Here's what I've
definitely.
tried. Here's what I've encountered. And I asked this, this was part and parcel when I was a technical consultant when we were running QA for things we deployed or were looking to deploy to production. And there was like in the old days, there was a form they'd fill out. Here's the test you're supposed to run. Okay. If it didn't pass, what did you try? What were the error messages? Be specific with that information. Otherwise, you're going to end up with like
Definitely.
crazier responses than you get on Reddit. I- I've I've
Got
been
it.
I've been shamed on Reddit for neglecting some information. I went, oh, I forgot that one detail that would have helped us. So
Definitely.
it's part of the process of learning how to ask for help, especially from people you haven't met in person, becomes critically important for that because it's
Agreed.
it's really easy. So,
Okay. I think let me give some chance to viewers who are watching this particular podcast. If you have any questions, please put on comment. Let ask to check.
oh boy.
And meanwhile, we are waiting for the questions. I have just one thing to ask.
Sure.
If you can create a custom ServiceNow workflow for your morning routine, how would it look like?
I know it's pretty linear and it's pretty repetitive. So every day it's get up, make sure the cat has fresh water, clean litter box. The cat comes first. Okay. Otherwise, I'm fending off the cat. Good. Yeah, 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 yeah. You already ate. Just stop bothering me. I'm trying to eat at this point, and all he's asking for is some fresh water. He's on the counter, sticking his nose in my breakfast. So gotta get the cat taken care of. From there, it's check the calendar. What's on that hard landscape for all you
Uh,
David Allen getting things done people? What's on the hard landscape for the day? Oh, I've got a call with Ajay to you know do the video podcast. And then it's what are my tasks that are lined up? And
Definitely.
looking at that to make sure that I have time carved out to address those. Right now, I'm doing a very classic retirement project. It's not cleaning the garage. I'm cataloging all of my vinyl records. I've collected so many. I never really I'm looking through these going, "Where did I get this? Who how it's a high school concert from Wisconsin. Why do I have this?" Yeah, but others are, more traditional. They go, "Oh, yeah, I've got 7 Queen albums that I just cataloged this morning." So, yeah, I wanna make sure that I'm moving towards these goals. It's very similar concept being retired as it is in a professional career. I've got goals that I wanna work towards. I've got projects that align to those goals. I've got tasks that help complete those projects, and I manage my time on that respect. So, I'm not just sitting on the couch watching Netflix all day. There's lots
That's
to be
definitely
done.
not possible.
Yep. I've got a Christmas party tomorrow, and I offered them a few weeks ago. I said, "Hey, would you be interested in singing some songs? I'd be happy to bring along my ukulele because I
Yeah.
need to keep practicing." And they said, "Yes, please. We'd love that." So for the last month or so, I've been collecting songs and practicing them. And I use a ServiceNow app to manage all of that. And out of that app has come a few ideas that I submitted into the CreatorCon call for content. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I'm always looking for ways to optimize the workflow because that process, I just wanted a PDF with all of my songs in it. That started out as, something very hand manual. Then I went into VS Code and I was writing Markdown because I found an extension that allowed you to generate PDF. But after about here's a tip for all you VS Code lovers. After about 20,000 lines, it doesn't work very well anymore. It's terribly slow. So don't write code longer than 20,000 lines. And my Markdown was it was getting it to be like 45,000 lines. And that was 4 months ago. So now it's a ServiceNow app that I can manage and just go click generate PDF because I changed the lyrics in a song.
Okay. That's nice.
Bit more information than you asked for.
Definitely. So we got one question from Sonesh. He's asking whose idea was it to match the book color with ServiceNow branding? Your book
That was
color.
my idea.
Nice.
That started in 2013. The old story, if you haven't heard it. Um, I think it was Knowledge 12. We were given a dress code. Everybody had to wear black pants and black the employees. Prior to that, at Knowledge 10 and 11, we had orange lanyards, so you could tell the employees from the attendees or the partners. They started the lanyard color thing back then. But they made a dress code at Knowledge 12, and it was black, 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 black. I said, "We look like we're going to a funeral." So I was thinking of ways for Knowledge 13 to sort of bend the rules, not break them.
Right.
And I came up with the red bow tie, and I said, "I want that power icon." If you remember, all you have to do is go to Service Portal,
Yeah.
and see the old logo,
Right.
and, I wanted the power icon on there in a very specific way. So I found somebody on the internet who could make the bow tie and somebody who could make the pattern of the fabric, and then a friend of mine made the pattern. So we did this iteration a couple of times and got it there. Then in 2018, John Donahoe came in and changed all the colors, so I had to go get new bow ties. And then in 2022, I think Bill McDermott introduced a change to the color palette and changed the logos, and the branding had
Right.
morphed once again. So I have lots of old ServiceNow bow ties and lots of old ServiceNow shirts. Fortunately, many of them align with the
Oh, great
liturgical.
news, everyone.
Oh, yeah, that's a good. Bumped it again. I'm going to move that a little further away. That align to our church colors as we go through the annual church calendar. There's a blue season and a green season, and it's like, great, I can use my old ServiceNow shirts. Tell me when orange season is, which there isn't one. But yeah, that was my idea. And my wife originally, she looked at me and went, "You're spending money on what now?" And it turned into such a deep rooted thing. It became almost a meme of its own. She doesn't question my crazy decisions like, "Why are you
Hmm.
podcasting?"
Right.
Because it worked out well for my career. Didn't know it at the time. Half the time, my career's been one happy accident after another. I just follow my ideas, follow my passions, and with luck, they'll become valuable to somebody.
Definitely, definitely right. So we should also respect that ideas and all those things. So that can help to different ways basically. And I can say that with your bow anyone can find this is Chuck only. You are a brand with your bow
I
now.
was pleasantly surprised when prior to announcing my retirement publicly in July, I had sent a message to our executives in June saying, Bill McDermott and Nick Sitson and Gina Mastantuono, et cetera. I said, here's my plan. Here are the dates, et cetera. And Bill responded within a day via email and said, when I was looking at doing my research on ServiceNow, that guy with the bow tie was everywhere. And I went, wow, okay, he knew who I was before I knew who he was. And it was humbling in a way. So, we kept in touch and the upper picture to my left is a picture of Bill McDermott and he signed it on my 10th anniversary and it's very nice. The man honestly cares for his employees to the point where he would do something like that. So I absolutely feel honored and privileged to have worked at such a company.
Definitely. So the next thing which is asked by one more person, Uday, what would you one area where you want to be service now to focus more to get ahead of their competitions for competitors basically?
I'm gonna cheat and say that's above my pay grade. I I have no idea what, Mr. McDermott is thinking 5, 10, 15 years down the road.
Yeah,
He thinks in
definitely.
terms of revenue numbers. This is gonna be a $10 billion year. This is gonna be a $15 billion year. We wanna get to $30 billion by this landmark. Uh, I don't know exactly what would drive him to get there. That's where he relies on his staff to help direct the strategy. So, um, just offhand, I see some competitive products, particularly in the consumer space. I mentioned Notion earlier. I've been playing around with that for the last couple of months. It's sort of a citizens version of uh, instead of B2B, it's more B2C. But there are some small companies running on Notion. It's not just a note-taking app like Evernote. It's got databases built in, and you can relate these things together. And about the most technical thing you can do is formulas, to make a formula field. And uh, I see products like that, and I think, boy, it'd be really nice if you know ServiceNow would adopt some of these things. And I know some of them are a cataclysmic shift underneath to the platform to make it do things the way that some of these other platforms, whether it's Notion or Make.com or Pipedream or I haven't messed with Zapier. I've seen it a couple of times, but there's other platforms out there to help with automations. The thing with those is a lot of them are bolted together. You don't get everything you want out of one platform. I remember going to a WordPress user group meeting several years back, and the guy said, I've got my shopping cart experience so people can purchase my templates or whatever he was selling. And it was something like 17 integrations, and it went into Zapier like 3 or 4 times. Just who's got something in the cart that they didn't finish their checkout? Do you wanna send them a reminder? I'm thinking, "Wow, service catalog and a decent flow will, do all of that in one step." So, having that single platform with all that rich data about assets and people and tasks and analytics all built into ServiceNow. I think that's pretty amazing that it's endured the test of time and that original structure that uh, Fred Luddy and his team set out to build with all the metadata incorporated in the platform was really brilliant. Yes, some things have had to take a generational leap, like the old workflow to Flow Designer, or CMS, the content management system, to service portal, to UI builder. Those are wholly new products, but a number of people, I mean, Brad Tilton's a great example of somebody who just thrives in that environment and continues to build. I think we're way off the question at this point.
Right, right, right. So I think we are moving to the closing the sessions, but let me ask you one more thing. What do you enjoy most about your retirement? And what is next challenges you are accepting?
What do I enjoy most? I think I already mentioned it. Accomplishing the goals that I had set out to do for retirement. Spend more time with the people I love, including my wife. Do some traveling. Uh, I'm on my schedule. I don't have to count PTO days anymore. When she says we're up to June and we have 8
Right,
trips planned, like
nice.
she wants a trip every month. January, February, March, April. I'm like, wow. Okay.
Amazing.
Um, part of me is fearful that my bank account will hold up. Then I see a stock price of ServiceNow and go, we're good. We're good. So I'm getting to do what I like at my own pace. I do miss the people that I worked with, trying to keep in
Definitely.
touch with as many as possible, but without being a pest, without being annoying. You don't call the week after you retire and go, "How are things? What did I miss in the team meeting?"
Definitely.
That doesn't work. But it's been a couple of months, so I say, "Hey, how's it going? I saw this thing on LinkedIn. What can you tell me about it?
Yes.
There's a position open for that." Well, we filled the position, but I can't tell you who's hired because they don't start until December 16th. Great. I'll
Right.
call back in a month, see how it went. How are you? How's your dog? Where's your family going? Just keeping those relationships alive. In fact, one of the things I built in Notion was a bit of a customer management system, a CRM, if you will, with all of the people, my family, coworkers, people from high school, that we saw at the reunion about 2 years ago. And when I say, "Hey, I'd like to keep in better touch with you," I better have your phone number or email or know how to get you on LinkedIn, something like that, so that I can keep in touch. And right now I'm trying to reach we've been trying, I swear, for the last 6 months to find a time with a gentleman that I worked with over 30 years ago. And I went, "Eric, how's next Friday afternoon look?" "Well, it all depends on the grandkids." I totally get that. You've got grandchildren, I don't. I've got time, you may not. So, just and then I put down a note. So I stole something from ServiceNow in that I have a table of people and a table of interactions. So I
100%.
could say, I sent him a text message on this date. So the next time we talk, I have notes about the previous time we talked. Yes, I
Right.
am I am that much of a nerd, but it's really hard to remember what you spoke about when it's 6 months later. There's a
Definitely.
lady who worked for one of our partners. She's on my list. I said, "Erica, next time you're in Phoenix, how about we get together for dinner?" So she sent a message clear out of the blue yesterday that, "What's next week look like for you?" I said,
Hmm.
"Bad, except for Friday." So we can work on that. And I think it just takes a little bit of focus to maintain that because unfortunately I've lost a couple of friends in the last year and friends parents that I was close to. So you get to a certain age and well, I guess you get to any age and people start passing on around you.
Hmm.
Never take that for granted. And I think this is a good time of year as we come to a close on the calendar year to remember that
Right.
is tell people you love them. Give them a hug. Maybe it's not an overt "I love you." Maybe it should be.
Right.
It would be a lot better place if we all said that a little more often. What is it? The Greeks had 4 different words for love, and it just depended on, is this more of a paternal thing? Is it a romantic thing? But, you can say it. It doesn't hurt. It actually feels good.
100%. Right. Definitely. Definitely. So the last question, if I ask you to summarize your career in ServiceNow with one piece of advice for developers, what would it be?
It's all about the people. If you are engaging with a customer, build those relationships, build that trust. If you're meeting somebody at a conference for the first time, introduce themselves. My challenge is to listen more than I talk.
Definitely, definitely.
I
Right.
talk a lot because people keep asking questions. So,
100%.
but turn the question around. If somebody says, uh, what have you been working on lately? Give them an answer and then say, great question. What have you been working on lately? So you get
Mm,
that interaction and show signs of respect. Do your best to remember people's names. I know we all suffer from, I met 7 people last night. I can only remember one, and she was
right.
cute.
Agreed. Agreed.
But yeah, there are certain tricks for that. But it's all about the people. It's all about those relationships. Networking is not a dirty word. I know sometimes in tech circles we think, oh, I'm happier working on the computer. Social media is social. If you do it
Right.
right, you can come out as a winner and then hopefully meet some of those people in real life and tell them how much they mean to you, what you've learned, what you've shared, get to know them as people, you know, learn about their families and their interests. And that's living life, in my opinion. The work is enjoyable. It's a big part of what we do, but it's not who we are. It's
Definitely.
people that are around us that are who we are. Oh, I
Right.
sound like
Right. I strongly believe in that one as well. Right. So networking is not a dirty word, basically. Right. So connections will, give you more opportunities to improve, to learn, and to grow more. Right. And whatever like you do, Chuck, earlier on the helping on ServiceNow community, I thought we have everyone who are working in the ServiceNow side, they have to come forward and help whatever they want to be, whatever the informations or knowledge they want to be share on it, they have to be share it. And I started with small things only. I started with 1 hour earlier. Now I'm just going to be growing and putting more efforts to that. And that I feel, if someone is asking out of the box things, I can search on it, I can help out the pupils, and that's the basically we are doing. And we
the
have to do it basically. That is the learning and growing opportunity which I can see.
the more you give, the more you get back.
Definitely,
If
100%.
I hadn't introduced myself to a couple of people at ServiceNow, I my career path would have been different. I won't say I wouldn't be here, but it would have been different. And just by you spend it choosing to invest your time in building this podcast, you don't know. And it's not about what will I get back. You will get back. I didn't get rich off of podcasting. I
100.
our Patreon fund actually broke even this year. Usually it gains a little bit in case I blow a hard drive or something. I can afford to fix it. But um, but it's not about the money. It's not about what you get out. We've built a worldwide global community. And now if I choose to take a trip to Belgium, I had a friend who's been listening to our podcast for almost 20 years in Belgium.
Right.
You're We're coming to your neighborhood. We chose to do that last year right before World Forum London and stopped and saw him in a day. It was an interesting trip because they lost our luggage in Belgium, but we got it back in time. The so it's those types of experience. Again, focusing on the relationships. The more you give, the more you get back.
I'm also doing the same thing. I'm, roaming around the India to attend every ServiceNow developer meetup, to connect with the pupils, to staying or, going with the networking things. And I love that basically.
Some great people out there. And even if it feels
Definitely.
like I've been giving 300% more and getting 0%, don't worry. You never know. You may end up like I did, being walked out the door on short notice, and somebody you just met offers you a job. You know,
Definitely.
who would have thought that would have happened? Not me, but it did. So,
Right.
that's everybody's scenario. But, somebody may say, "Hey, I heard you play the ukulele. Do you wanna come join us for this, meetup, this group?" I don't expect to be playing professionally at any point in the future, but as long as I am sharing some joy with the world, that's
100%.
what I'm getting out of it.
100% agreed. And, we are out of time now. So last thing, I just want to thanks everyone who supported me to reach out here on this journey and doing my first podcast with Chuck. I'm grateful for that. and it's my honor to have you, Chuck, here. I would like to call some name basically, and I hope you already know couple of the peoples in that one. Atul Grover, Sandeep
Yes.
Satta, who helped me a lot to teach me and help me out to grow on the ServiceNow community side. I am always thankful for them. And in the professional side, I would like to my ex-manager Vikrant Bhargava, Himanshu Wadia, and there are lots of people who help me a lot to grow or succeed in this particular sites. So I would like to thanks again to them. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chuck, for your time on Friday morning. It was an amazing discussion with you. We'll definitely meet you soon again. Let's see if it is knowledge 25.
I look forward to it. Let's hope. All right.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, viewers. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.